Harborside Christian Church. We are a local church with a mission to love and lead people into encounters with the fullness of God. We currently steward 35 acres of land in the center of Safety Harbor, Florida. But we weren't always here, and we weren't always called Harborside Christian Church. This is our story. Our first ever church service was held in 1984 in a funeral home in Palm Harbor, Florida. Countryside Christian Church. It was started by 4 families with a zeal for Christ and building the kingdom.
Harborside was so small that the running joke was, we count all the bodies in the funeral home, dead or alive. That's how we start.
Soon after, we relocated to Palm Harbor Middle School. We held Sunday services in the cafeteria and kids ministry in the courtyards. By 1986, we knew we needed land, somewhere to call home. That's when we found 3380 State Road 580. But because a neighboring church to our new property was also called Countryside Christian Center, it was decided to rename our church.
So because that was so confusing with Countryside Christian Center, there was a committee formed and people submitted names, and the name that was chosen then was Harborside Christian Church.
Our new property was previously a horse farm. The property had an old barn and a 3-bedroom house with a pool. We got to work quickly. We did a complete renovation of the barn and flipped it into a beautiful chapel sanctuary. The house was used for kids ministry, Bible classes, and baptisms.
And it was joked around the community that our church had the biggest baptistry of any church you could ever imagine.
Our church was growing, and so were our families. Because of this, in 1988, we built an education building for the kids, students, and adults to have a place to learn the Holy Scriptures. By 1992, we had outgrown the barn and it was time to build a larger facility. So we built a beautiful worship center that remains today and tore down the barn for parking space. From 1992 to 1998, our church grew exponentially. Many new families came into our community. We saw great discipleship, fellowship, and worship. Original worship music sprang forth from our house. We released multiple praise music records. We held retreats for pastors around our area and equipped them for ministry. It became obvious we were outgrowing the new facility, and we needed to begin thinking about the future. At the same time, we received a cash offer from another church to purchase our property and building. So in 1998, our church voted in faith to sell our entire property and facility and relocate to Countryside High School until we found a larger property to build a new church on. The search began. From 1998 to 2000, we looked. And then we came across our current property, owned by 3 brothers, the Messenger brothers. After much negotiation and collaboration with a housing developer, the brothers agreed to sell 35 acres of the land to Harborside Christian Church. This is where we are today. Excitement was everywhere. Ideas, dreams, and plans began getting drafted. There was a vision for a whole campus with several buildings in different environments. But we had to start somewhere. Our current building. Designed and planned, we broke ground, dedicated the land, and got to work. In 2004, our doors opened for our first ever worship service in our current building. But then everything unraveled.
But not all the history of our church was up and to the right. There were struggles and there were challenges and there were moral failures and ethical problems, and staff got fired and let go, and it wasn't always a straight line. So I come, and Danita and I come in 2004, and we just moved into this new building, and there was a great leadership debacle at the top. And so here we are, been a senior pastor for 16 years in Memphis. Now I'm here, and things are going to go great, and everything just absolutely fell apart in 2005. And the church lost 800 people in the next 3 years. So I am probably the only senior pastor you will ever know who lost 800 people and is still preaching at the same church. And it was tough. I mean, we wanted to quit. We wanted to leave. I wanted to do anything but be here because it was hard. And we were house poor. And we're in a brand new building and we're $9 million in debt. I had nothing, but we're $9 million in debt. And we just lost more than half our congregation. So there's about 550 people left. And I thought we knew how to pray. Danita and I really got serious about prayer.
We experienced great loss, and momentum was just gone. From 2005 to 2014, we prayed hard, and our prayers were answered. We saw God rebuild, replenish, and restore. Many people and families began coming to our church. We felt a fresh wind of life in our house once again.
But all we did was preach the gospel. All we did was exalt Christ. All we did was share how much Jesus Christ loved you. And then people started coming and we started baptizing people. I must share with you that God really started to honor humility, service, prayer, fasting, preaching, the gospel, the scriptures. That's what grows a church.
In 2015, God deposited a vision into us. We saw marriages failing in America, our city, and in our own house. It was a vision of mentorship, an outreach ministry to equip couples for marriage, not just a wedding day. Biblical skills given to engaged couples, and then they got married on our campus. In matters of marriage, God chose the most surprising and seemingly undeserving church to act as the catalyst and conduit for reshaping the trajectory of marriage for generations to come. So we built a beautiful chapel, designed carefully and methodically to reach all couples. In 2017, the Harborside Chapel doors opened. It has been far more successful than we could have ever dreamed or imagined. At the same time, we began writing and releasing original music again, something we hadn't done in decades. Our church continued to blossom, so in 2018, a space problem became evident once again.
And so we're in 2019, and we literally have 4 services on a Sunday, 3 on a Sunday morning, 1 on a Sunday night. The middle service that we always had, there wasn't enough room, and people were out there in the lobby. And we began to see that we need a bigger worship center. We need a bigger space.
We embarked on a journey of prayer, strategic planning, and action to construct a new worship facility on the 1-acre grass field adjacent to our existing church building. The Lord led us to invest in the future and build a beautiful facility that would reflect our devotion to Him.
So we have this huge capital campaign the end of February of 2020. And the very next week, this thing called COVID hits and the whole world shuts down, and we have to figure out how to take the gospel from here out to you in your homes. We had no idea. Well, now what do we do? Now what do we do? Do we still build a worship center? We're raising funds, we're raising money, but what's the right thing to do? And so we stripped everything back to the stud, so to speak. We questioned everything. We did needs assessments. And what is it that's right for our community? What's the best use of money and best use of resources?
Not all hope was lost. In fact, it was strengthened. The trials of the COVID-19 season refined our church. It rejuvenated our mission and clarified our direction from the Lord. In 2023, everything we knew about our church was placed before God. We sought the Lord for what He wanted our house and body to become, and He answered. A renewed mission, an enhanced vision, in a much greater direction for the future of our church. The Lord revealed His heart that it wasn't just 1 acre that he was asking us to steward. It was all 35 acres, not just 1 day of the week, but all 7.
To steward a campus. Because 35 acres is for encounters with God. Can you imagine the rest and healing that we can provide during the week? Who else has 35 acres in the middle of Safety Harbor? No one. No one has 35 acres in the center where there can be rest and healing.
We began looking back at our church's history. We saw God's fingerprint through it all. Our church always stewarded the land God had given us for kingdom work. A barn turned chapel, a house for ministry, an education building for teaching the Holy Scriptures. God's vision for the capital campaign was not just about a new worship building, it was about stewarding an entire campus.
I'm standing in the middle of our campus. Our campus of Harborside Christian Church has 35 acres. God has given us 35 acres to steward. We are overwhelmed with gratitude as to what God has done the past 40 years. Celebrating a 40-year anniversary is a really big deal. The number 40 in the Bible always signifies one great task going to another great task. So we've had 40 years of reaching children and youth and adults and helping people find relationships and community. But we're really excited about the next 40 years as well. And all of this takes you with us as we steward these 35 acres. 35 acres in the middle of this town. Nobody has what we have. So lean in, let's change our community and our world together.